Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores or I go to estate sales and I look for things that I find interesting or that I think will tell me a story, and then I try to find out as much as I can about them and then tell you guys about them. So I've got something kind of weird for today. I have a salt and pepper shaker, which is the better side. Oh, let's call it that. And these are very interesting little objects, because those of you who are familiar with weird conspiracy theories will recognize that as being the symbol of the Masons, the Freemasons. Yeah, the Illuminati guys. Anyone who is a fan of Dan Brown, raise your hand now. So we've actually got two different ones here, the salt and shaker and the pepper shaker, and one of them has the star here. And anyone who maybe is a little bit familiar with the Masons in North America anyway would recognize this as being the symbol of the Order of the Eastern Star, which is an appellate order to the Freemasons. But we'll get to that in a sec. So they're about 2.5 inches. They're actually remarkably consistent between the two of them, 2.5 inches high. And about 2.25 inches across. And just shy of an inch wide. Yeah. I don't know if there is a rule or something that they have to be the same dimensions. It would be nice to think that they are, or that it is a thing. Personally, I don't know offhand. Now, I bought these in a thrift store. I paid $3 for the pair. And the reason that I actually got them is because I have a family member who was in the Freemasons, back in Ireland, I should say, not in North America, who is in essentially a traditional Masonic order, as far as I know, one where they don't allow women and there's an actual secrecy about it and all that kind of thing. But despite what you've read about conspiracy theories, all I can say is, knowing, obviously, because I have someone who could actually talk to directly and ask questions about this kind of stuff. In Ireland anyway, the Freemasons are really just they're essentially a charity group. They're a bunch of guys who go out and do fundraising for good causes and like to, work quietly behind the scenes to make everything a little bit better for people. Like, that's really it. They're, a lot of older retired guys who just have decided to spend their days doing good things for their community and raising money for good causes. So I found these really interesting as kind of a curiosity. I do actually occasionally see like ceramics with the symbol of the Order of the Eastern Star on a fairly regular around Vancouver anyway. It just, it seems to be a thing. Having a set that actually also has the symbol of the Masons is not something I recall seeing again, and I've never seen something like this before. Now, in case you don't know the Freemasons, come on, iPad. All right, so in case you don't actually know the Freemasons, if that's the case, then, oh boy, you've got a lot of reading ahead of you and you're going to love all of it, especially if you're into conspiracy theories. They're, some people say that they're the weirdos who run the world. That's not really the case. They're just like this old, loosely affiliated groups or organizations that go back to medieval times, and they're called the stonemasons because they kind of grew out of these like groups that had rules about essentially doing stonemasonry work, which is going out and building all these big fancy buildings and all that kind of thing. They've just been around a really long time, and I kind of think that people get weird ideas about what the stuff they do simply because they've been around forever. But not the case. They're just known for being weirdly secretive, for being weirdly sexist, obviously, because most of them don't accept women, and having this kind of strange arcane symbology or things to do with like controlling the world, Illuminati, all this other kind of weird stuff. And popular culture tends to have that kind of stuff as well. I can only tell you what I know personally. Anyway, the Order of the Eastern Star is something slightly different. It was founded in 1815. It's called an appellate order, and that just means that it's not kind of part of like the main Masonic order, but it's kind of like attached to them and recognized by them. This one is kind of cool because members of the Order of the Eastern Star at age 18 and older, men must be Master Masons and women must have specific relations. They actually allow women, which is something, they allow women in, and it's the same. They kind of do the same thing as like the main, like the older Masonic order that my family members in. They essentially just go and do fundraising and do good works and try to, try and get, do charity, that kind of thing. Do good things around the community. That's really it. There's a lot of there's some information here. I'll put it down in the description if you're curious about the Order of the Eastern Star. There's a little bit about like essentially the mythology of it, and that, and because obviously it's something to do with the Masons, there's a lot of symbology and representation and all kinds of ritual and what have you. And maybe if you're into that thing, you'll find it interesting. I find a lot of it a bit silly, I guess, but you got to say good on them for actually doing good stuff around the community. But anyway, once we're actually looking at these little salt and pepper shakers, like, what more can we say about them? Like, do we know essentially where they came from? Bearing in mind that they showed up in a thrift store in Vancouver. And it turns out that we actually can. Like, if we start taking a look around at, like, pepper shakers by the Order of the Eastern Star, again, I see this on a fairly regular basis, and this is what I'm normally seeing. This printed symbol. That's not a great picture, unfortunately. Something like that? No? Okay, we're not going to get a good picture. So I tend to see this. I think I've seen a set of salt and pepper shakers like this at least once. And mostly what I see are very small plates or dishes that have the symbol like imprinted on it somewhere. And I can't tell whether it's just like a set of kind of cool dinnerware or whether it's actually for some ceremonial use and someone donated it by accident. I suspect it's just dinnerware. But if we scroll down a bit, we can start seeing some more examples specifically of this. And hey, they look kind of familiar. And we have here Mason's Eastern Star Vintage Salt and Pepper Shakers by Kistner. And that leads us to some more interesting information. Unfortunately, not a whole lot. To the best of my knowledge, F.N. Kistner was someone who was operating out of Chicago and was making ceramics specifically and only for the Order of the Eastern Star, because I can't find any other reference to them doing other stuff. They only seem to do stuff for the Masons, and that was it. Whether they're around now, I really can't tell. I've tried to find any other reference to them, and I really got nothing. All we really have are just essentially stuff like this. F.N. Kistner Co., Chicago, Illinois. So why do I think that these specifically were being made by that? It's mostly because of these vases. This was made by F.N. Kistner in Chicago. You see here it's 1957, and you can see that the shape is incredibly similar. This is a bud, like a vase or a planter of some kind, but you can see that there's very strong similarities, especially in the scroll shape, which is not normally part of the star symbol. Very, very similar. So we have to kind of assume, like, just based on that alone, the similarities are enough that, like, these were actually made by the same company. So likely from the 1950s as well. It's pretty good, to be honest. Like, it's not, considering that there's not really much on them. All we have at the bottom, apart from that horrible black mark, which I can't really get off, is that little signature, which is not focusing. Focus. And I can't really tell what that's supposed to be, except to say that I think the same person made obviously both of them because they have the same mark. It's going to remain a mystery, unfortunately. So the other question is, what could these possibly be worth, considering that they may only be significant to someone who's actually in the Order of the Eastern Star or someone who is a Freemason? Again, bought them for $3 for the pair. I've done some research on eBay, and Order of the Eastern Star stuff, when I see it, generally just doesn't really sell at all. These are fairly unusual. I would say that maybe $10 to $15 would be a good price for them if someone was was into, either was actually a member of the Eastern Star and wanted something kind of cool and vintage, or they just, someone's into, weird conspiracy theories and just likes the look. Hey, look, I've got salt and pepper shakers by the Freemasons. There you go. So I find them kind of cool. I really wish that the pattern on them wasn't so worn, because I think they're really interesting, and just there's such a kind of a cool thing to have, salt and pepper shakers to do by the Illuminati. Anyway, so these are my small joyful things for the day. I hope you guys like them as well, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.